ayeih in the Psalm 53, page 53. In the following excerpt, Hilchos Erevei Techumin, and Nosson discusses Azamru and ayeih together, explaining how each is necessary in different phases of our spiritual journey. He anchors his analysis on the concept of Shabbos, because Shabbos is the root of all our joy and holiness. Rebbe Nosson bases discussion on the concept of the Shabbos Chum, the Shabbos boundary. Halachically, this is a spatial concept referring to the limits within which a person may travel on Shabbos, nanach, nachma, meuman, and son.
שמורות עיניי נפעמתי ולא אדבר, חשבתי ימים מקדם שנות עולמים אזכרני.
And Nosson expands the spiritual dimension of the concept of Tchim, showing how it signifies the protective boundary that guards our Jewish identity. Azamru and ayeih comprise the boundary that keeps us within the realm of holiness and joy throughout all the challenges of life. These two teachings serve as the remedy for the two main flaws in the creation, the vacant space and the shattering of the vessels. The holiness of Nosson's discussion demonstrate the great depth of Azamru and ayeih, but it also offers a profound and inspiring insight into the meaning of Shabbos, revealing the power of Shabbos to bring holiness and joy into our lives every day and every moment. Rav Nosson writes, the holiness of the Jewish people is rooted in the holiness of Shabbos, which encompasses all the entire Torah. All the holiness of the Jewish people, whether the holiness that comes from Torah study or from keeping the mitzvahs, is itself the holiness of Shabbos. All the holiness of the Jewish people, whether the holiness that comes from Torah study or from keeping the mitzvahs, is itself the holiness of Shabbos. And this holiness is not confined. All the holiness of the Jewish people, whether the holiness that comes from Torah study or from keeping the mitzvahs, is itself the holiness of Shabbos. And this holiness is not confined to the day of Shabbos alone. We must also draw it into our lives on the 6 working days as well. Remember the Shabbos day to sanctify it. This implies remember it from Sunday onwards. We remember the Shabbos on weekdays by observing the Torah and mitzvahs day by day. Through them we fill ourselves with the holiness of Shabbos. Clearly then it is of utmost importance to honor the Shabbos. Clearly then it is of utmost importance to honor the Shabbos. The main thing is to celebrate the Shabbos day joyously and wholeheartedly. The main thing is to celebrate the Shabbos day joyously and wholeheartedly. Joyously and wholeheartedly. We should banish all worry and depression from our minds. We should banish all worry and depression from our minds. We should banish all worry and depression from our minds, and even sadness over our various fallings, and even sadness over our various falling failings, and even sadness over our various failings on weekdays too. We should keep well away from depression, especially when we are engaged in something like Torah study and mitzvahs and mitzvah performance. Especially then we should forget our worries about our sins. We should just take joy in the little go of what we still have in us. We should we should just take joy in the little good we still have in us. We should just take joy in the little good we still have in us. We should just take joy in the little good of what we still have in us. Oh, the yes certainly applies on Shabbos. On that day there should be no sadness or depression at all. Oh, the yeses of the holiness of Shabbos lies in putting all our energies into being happy, into being happy. Oh, the essence of the holiness. Oh, the essence of the holiness of Shabbos. Oh, is in putting all our energies into being happy, because Shabbos is a day of joy in all the worlds. On that day, all the different ways of achieving happiness and joy shine with a special glow. Oh, on that day, all the different ways of achieving happiness and joy shine with a special glow. Oh, on that day, all the different ways of achieving happiness and joy shine with a special glow. It is still up to us to put them into practice. Oh, but on Shabbos, it is much easier to do so. And by striving for happiness on Shabbos, we can achieve it on the 6 working days as well. The key to holiest is to bring the joy of Shabbos into the 6 working days. The key to holiest is to bring the joy of Shabbos into the 6 working days. Investing the weekday with weekday mitzvahs of joy, Shabbos joy. On the holiness then is to bring the joy of Shabbos into the 6 working days, investing the weekday mitzvahs with joy, Shabbos joy. This joy completes, this joy completes the mitzvah. This joy completes the mitzvah and causes it to ascend to the upper worlds. Rebbe Nachman's writings are filled with ideas for achieving a constant state of happiness. With ideas for achieving a constant state of happiness, so that nothing gets you down. With ideas for achieving a constant state of happiness, so that nothing gets you down. Rebbe Nachman's writings are filled with ideas for achieving a constant state of happiness, so that nothing gets you down. Being happy is the foundation of everything else, but the 2 most basic methods can be found in the lessons of Asamro. And ayeih is the subject of this book. The main idea of Asamro is that even someone who feels very far from God and full of failings should nevertheless look for his good points. Who feels very far from God, who feels very far from God, who feels very far from God, and full of failings. Who is very far from God, who feels very far from God and full of failings should nevertheless look for his good points. It is simply not possible that he never did anything worthwhile in his life. It is simply not possible. It is simply not possible that he never did anything worthwhile in his life. It is simply not possible that he never did anything worthwhile in his life. These good points will bring him to genuine happiness. These good points will bring him to genuine happiness. These good points will bring him to genuine happiness. These good points will bring him to genuine happiness. It is vital to follow these teachings because they are the basis of Jewish living. As anyone who desires to be a true Jew knows well, for the only way to succeed is by drawing on the power of Shabbos and the power of the true tzaddikim. nanach, nachma, meuman, indeed. The holiness of Shabbos is the holiness, yes, indeed. The holiness of Shabbos is the holiness achieved by the tzaddik, as indicated in the Zohar. Oh, you are the Shabbos of all the days. You are the Shabbos of all the days. Shabbos, the approach of a zamro, truly shines. To a certain extent, the forces of evil will always have the 6 working days in their grasp. They even have a grip on the good we do, which is why our mitzvahs are so often accompanied by a kind of heaviness. By a kind of heaviness, or the forces of evil grasp onto the feet of each mitzvah, as alluded to in the verse. The Shekhinah's feet go down to death, or weighted down. The mitzvah cannot go forth and show itself before God in full pride. But when Shabbos comes, the feyayayayayt are released from the hold of evil. Thus it is written, if you turn away your foot becomes, if you turn away your foot because of the Shabbos, if you turn away your foot because of the Shabbos, on Shabbos if you turn away your foot, because of the Shabbos, if you turn away your foot. Because of the Shabbos, if you turn away your foot. Because of the Shabbos, on Shabbos the mitzvah can go before God, and He is delighted, even if the mitzvah was done in a very modest way. God's love for Israel, His special people, is so strong that He takes great delight. That He takes great delight in each mitzvah, and converts it into an open pathway towards Him. And converts it into an open pathway towards Him. On the 6 working days, the grasp of darkness is so strong that it takes a tremendous effort to sift out the good from the mitzvahs that we do. We have to work hard to remind ourselves of all the good points. We have to work hard to remind ourselves of all the good points our mitzvahs contain, and try not to be discouraged by the inadequate way we feel when we perform them. We feel we perform them. And try not to be discouraged by the inadequate way we feel we perform them. By the inadequate way we feel we perform them. Often we are assailed by all kinds of dark thoughts about our failure to live up to our ideas. Often we are assailed by all kinds of dark thoughts about our failure to live up to our ideas, not to mention our actual sins. Sometimes we are so dragged down that we come to believe there is no hope at all. All this is the work of the evil one. It has nothing to do with genuine modesty. Or the evil one is trying to pull us down completely. That is why it is so hard to remember our good points. Thank God we do receive help in the most wonderful roundabout ways. Thank God we do receive help in the most wonderful roundabout ways to follow the path of Zamro. Our ability to prevail derives from the power of Shabbos, by bringing the holiness of Shabbos into each of the 6 working days. We acquire the strength to follow the path of a Zamro. On Shabbos, the path of a Zamro radiates perfectly. Because then the influence of the forces of evil vanishes, along with depression and sadness. All the forces of anger and severity flee. All the forces of anger and severity flee. And there is no other power besides God in all of the world. Shabbos, 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 Shabbos brings an awakening. Shabbos brings an awakening. Of infinite forces of love and kindness. Shabbos brings an awakening of infinite forces of love and kindness. Oh, the ways of God, His true kindnesses. Oh, the ways of God, His true kindnesses are revealed and shine in all the worlds. For God does not look at a person's evil, only at the good in him. He did not see sin in Jacob on Shabbos. The mitzvahs of the Jewish people begin to go before God in pride, because the forces of evil on Shabbos. On Shabbos, all the mitzvahs of the Jewish people begin to go before God and pride, because the forces of evil sadness, because the forces of evil sadness, because the forces of evil, because the forces of evil, because the forces of evil, sadness and depression that extroverted grip on the faith vanish. Oh, you're revealing the precious holiness of all the good points of the mitzvahs, revealing the precious holiness of the precious holiness of all the good points of the mitzvahs, revealing the precious holiness of all the good points of the mitzvahs, revealing the precious holiness of all the good points of the mitzvahs never been. Those mitzvahs go before God in pride, opening the way for everyone to come close to Him. Shabbos, the way of a Zamru, it's clear and radiant, because the forces of evil are powerless to conceal good beneath the land. Bad. Therefore only the good shines forth, the good points of all the mitzvahs, until evil and depression fall away completely. Therefore only the good shines forth, the good points of all the mitzvahs, until evil and depression fall away completely, and song and praise break forth. A song for the Shabbos day praises and sings. From the gathering of all the good points in the mitzvah is carried out by every Jew, even Jewish sinners. The most amazing songs and praises are formed. I will praise God with my life. I will sing it to my God with the little I have left. With the little I have left, the essence of the teaching of ayeih, and its subtlety and depth also derives from the holiness of Shabbos and the holiness of the true tzaddikim. Nanach, nachman, meuman. The tzaddikim are those who have already attained the level of ayeih in holiness. As a result of their spiritual achievements, they have climbed level by level until they have reached the ultimate heights of ayeih, which is the supreme crown, and through their own success, they acquire the power to lighten the way for others, even those who have fallen to the filthy places. If those who have fallen will only search ayeih, if those who have fallen will only search ayeih. If those who have fallen will only search ayeih, if those who have fallen will only search ayeih, where is the place of His glory? They too can reach the heights of bezH, the hidden utterance. Power of the tzaddikim is itself the power of the holiest of Shabbos. For on Shabbos all the souls and all the worlds rise up to the level of ayeih, which is the will of wills. For on Shabbos all the souls and of all the worlds rise up to the level of ayeih, which is the will of wills, the highest source of the creation. The will of wills, the highest source of the creation, to the power of the holy Shabbos, when the level of ayeih radiates in holiness, and through the power of the true tzaddikim, nanach, nachma, nachman meuman, who reached ayeih in holiness. It is possible to give new life. 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 It is possible to give new life to all who have fallen to the filthy places. It is possible to give new life to all who have fallen to the filthy places. It is possible to give new life to all who have fallen to the filthy places. Then they too can raise themselves up by virtue of the fact that they did not despair, even in the situation in which they found themselves. Instead of giving up, they must search for a way to return to God. Then they too can raise themselves up by virtue of the fact that they did not despair, even in the situation in which they found themselves. Instead of giving up, they must search for a way to return to God. The connection between ayeih and Shabbos illuminates what the rabbi said about Adam's sin and his banishment from the Garden of Eden. The Shabbos protected him. The Shabbos protected him. Adam's sin encompasses all the sins in the world. Shabbos serves all as the main defense, and the means of escape, because it is from Shabbos that these paths derive, giving us the means to return to God and make amends, giving us the means to return to God, and make amends, and make amends, and make amends, and make amends, and make amends. Nanach, nachma, nachman meuman. The law of the Shabbos. Chum permits a person to walk a maximum of 2,000 cubits from the edge of the town in which he spent Shabbos. These 2,000 cubit years are called the Shabbos boundary. It is forbidden to travel any further. Oh, as it is written, let no man go out of his place. The Hebrew word for 1,000, aleph, has the same letters as aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet in Kabbalistic literature. Letter ayeih. In Kabbalistic literature, the letter aleph signifies seichel, intellect, or wisdom. Thus the 2,000 cubits. Thus the 2,000 cubits of the Shabbos boundary suggest to our holiest, to wisdoms, like the 2,000 years by which the Torah preceded the world. These two wisdoms are the two paths of Zamro and ayeih. That comprise the boundary of holiness, the protective limits that has the power to keep us within the bounds of Jewish sanctity all our lives, that has the power to keep us within the bounds of Jewish sanctity all our lives. We have seen above that Shabbos and encompasses the entire holiness of the Jewish people. Azamru is one aleph. It is written, 1,000 are for you, Shlomo. Shlomo alludes to Shabbos because the King of Peace, Shalom, being the King of Peace, Shalom, according to the Kabbalah. But the added spirituality of Shabbos causes 1,000 lights to shine forth on the Jewish people. All this light is channeled down through the path of a Zamru by means of the true tzaddikim, nachman feige. Nach meuman, who judge everyone positively and find good points in every single Jew, down to the lowest. And the tzaddikim teach this path to all the people, so that each individual can find his own good points, and all can return to God. And the positive point is an angel, an intercessor, one out of 1,000, an intercessor, one out of 1,000 to vouch for a man's uprightness, even if we only find one good point in 1,000, or even if in the positive merit itself the good is only one part out of 1,000, it still helps. This is the lesson. The rabbis learned from the above verse. They said, even if that very angel contains 999 parts for the prosecution and only one in part for the defense, the accused person is still saved. In other words, even if our mitzvahs or our positive points contain only a fraction of good, they still have the power to move us onto the scale of merits, so that we can attain the 1,000 lights, that radiate on Shabbos. The path of ayeih is also an holier. The path of ayeih, and the path of ayeih is also an aleph. The letter aleph alludes to the level of ayeih, the hidden utterance of Bereshit, since ayeih is the pele. Sublime wonder, pele has the same Hebrew letters as aleph. This is the level of keter, of which the rabbi said, what is to wonder is mufla. For you do not inquire into. For you do not inquire into. Do not inquire into. Do not inquire into. Do not inquire into. Of this level it is said, telling the end from the beginning. Of this level it is said, telling the end from the beginning. Telling the end from the beginning, Reshis, alluding to Bereshit. As we have seen on Shabbos, the light of ayeih radiates in an awesome, wondrous manner. This is the source of the perceptions of the true tzaddik. This is the source of the perceptions of the true tzaddik. By rising to the level of ayeih, he has the power to bring home to all the Jewish people that even a person who has fallen to the most remote places can still search for God even there, and then through searching ayeih, he can rise to the highest levels. Thus we see that ayeih is also an aleph that radiates with a special light on Shabbos. These two alephs comprise the Shabbos boundary, because these two paths keep a Jew within the bounds of holiness, as signified by the 2,000 cubits of the Shabbos Techum. The measurement of the Shabbos Techum is derived from the laws concerning the cities of the Levites. These cities were surrounded by 1,000 cubits of open land and an additional 1,000 cubits of fields and vineyards. The Kohanim priests and the Levites symbolize the tzaddikim in each generation and their followers, respectively. The true tzaddik is the kohen, as the rabbi is taught on the verse. The lips of the kohen keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is a messenger, malach of the Lord of hosts. The rabbis commented, if he is like an angel, malach of God. In other words, if he is saintly, then they should seek the law at his mouth. Nanach, nachma, meuman. Thus the kohen is equated with the tzaddik. As for the Levites, their role was to be joined with and minister to the priests. to be joined with and minister to the priests, just as the followers of the tzaddik are attached to him, and carry out his projects, just as the followers of the tzaddik are attached to him, and carry out his projects. The Levites received guidance and teaching from the Kohanim in order to give direction to the Jewish people. 48 cities were apportioned to the Kohanim and the Levites, 6 cities of refuge for those guilty of manslaughter, and an additional 42 cities of their own. The number of cities alludes to the fundamentals of Jewish belief, as contained in the 6 words of the verse Shema Yisrael and the 42 words of the ensuing paragraph beginning V'ahavtu, and you shall love. The whole task of the tzaddikim and their followers, nach, nachman, meuman, is to instill perfect faith in the Jewish people, for that is the whole Torah. All 48 cities possessed 2,000 cubits of common land, fields and vineyards. From this measurement, the Shabbos boundary is derived. This connects with the work of the tzaddikim. This connects with the work of the tzaddikim to instill in the Jewish people the ayeih, the twin approaches of a zamro and ayeih, so that no Jew will go beyond the bounds of holiness. 1,000 cubits of open land had to be completely empty, which connects with the concept of ayeih itself, and aleph for ayeih is the concealed life source of the remote places, and is equated with the vacated space, as we have seen. The second 1,000 cubits of fields and vineyards allude to the path of Zamru, also and Aleph, by finding the good points in the Jewish people and bringing them back to God. We sow fields and plant vineyards by finding the good points in the Jewish people and bringing them back to God. By finding the good points in the Jewish people and bringing them back to God, we sow fields and plant vineyards. They sowed fields and planted vineyards, and they brought forth fruits and produce. All the good that the tzaddikim uncover in the Jews produces fruits in the supernal field, where Israel's work in sowing and planting lies. It is customary to recite Psalm 107 on the eve of Shabbos. Its description of all the trials and tribulations of the Jewish people corresponds of all the trials and tribulations of the Jewish people corresponds to the suffering of the soul on the 6 working days. See Rebbe Nachman's wisdom to 72 wits. They wandered in the wilderness, they cried out to God. Those who dwelled in darkness and the shadow of death, they wandered in the wilderness, they cried out to God. Those who dwelled in darkness in the shadow of death, and they will thank God for His kindness and wonders. All God's wonders in saving us from evil to keep us firm are performed through the power of the tzaddikim, nanach, nachman, meuman, who strengthen us with these 2 holy paths, rooted in the spiritual power of Shabbos. Therefore we recite this psalm as Shabbos begins, concluding with the words, He turns the desert into a pool of water, and they sowed fields and planted vineyards. Nanach, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman, meuman, nachman, nachman, meuman. God placed man in a world in which good and evil are intermingled, to give him the opportunity to sift out the good and then the reward of the world to come. God placed man in a world in which good and evil are intermingled, to give him the opportunity to sift out the good and earn the reward of the world to come. The work of sifting and refinement is carried out on the 6 days, on the 6 weekdays, through the 39 categories of labor, travel, etc. The 39 categories of labor are the paradigm for all labor. The paradigm for all labor, since they were all necessary for the building of the sanctuary. Itself the model of perfection. They are the means through which the entire creation is refined. Shabbos, however, is not the time for the work of refinement. Shabbos is on a plane beyond this world. Therefore the 39 categories, Shabbos is on a plane beyond this world. Therefore the 39 categories of labor are forbidden on Shabbos, and we refrain from travel, the weekday work of refining the creation, sifting the good from the bad, finding the sparks of holiness and raising them up from the forces of evil, is accomplished by the great tzaddikim and their followers, mainly through the twin paths of Zamru and ayeih. There are two broad divisions among the forces of evil. The first division includes those forces that derive from the shattering of the vessels. The first division includes those forces that derive from the shattering of the vessels. God's infinite light could not be received by man in its initial intensity. The vessels designed to hold that light broke, causing good to be mixed up with evil and giving man freedom of choice. The shattering of the vessels projected sparks of holiness, so that even in the darkest and most remote places, there is some good to be found. The second division includes the forces of evil that derive from the vacated space, which is devoid of godliness, and where God cannot be found by reason at all, only through faith. The vacated space is not only the source of the intractable problem. The vacated space is not only the source of the intractable problems of philosophy. The vacated space is not only the source of the intractable problems of philosophy, but also of the temptations and allurements of evil, but also of the temptations and allurements of evil, but also of the temptations and allurements of evil, but also of the temptations and allurements of evil, which are themselves rooted in godliness and essence. The work of refinement is accomplished through tshuva and good deeds. The work of refinement is accomplished through tshuva and good deeds. Adam's sin through numerous holy sparks among the forces of evil. And the same happens whenever anyone sins. The mind of the sinner becomes encumbered with all kinds of confusions and negative ideas. The mind of the sinner becomes encumbered with all kinds of confusions and negative ideas, to the point that his thoughts and ideas may come down to him from the level of the vacated space itself, which is the source of all the filthy places. The only way for a sinner To rise up from there is through the twin paths of a zamru and ayeih. Through a zamru, he can sift out the good from the forces of evil that derive from the shattering of the vessels. Much good is mixed up among the evil here, and it must be refined. This is accomplished by the true tzaddikim and their followers through the teaching of a zamru, nanach, nachman, meuman. But there is an even more powerful level of evil rooted in the vacated space. When negative thoughts and confusions derive from there, the only remedy is to search ayeih. Where is the place of His glory? The work of refinement on the 6 weekdays is accomplished through the twin approaches of azamru and ayeih. But because of the powerful grip of evil on the 6 weekdays, hard work and efforts are needed in the form of the 39 categories of labor, travel, and so on. Even then, the ability to accomplish this work derives from the holiness of Shabbos. Even then, the ability to accomplish this work derives from the holiness of Shabbos. Although the work of refinement ceases on Shabbos, the weekday work can only succeed through the power of the holiness of Shabbos. Likewise, the tikkun, rectification, which is the goal of all the work of refinement, rectification, which is the goal of all the work of refinement, is not complete until Shabbos. Only then does the refined holiness go back up to its place. When Shabbos commences, all the sparks of holiness that were sifted and refined on the 6 working days rise upwards. All this is discussed in mystical terms in the writings of the Kabbalah. The present discussion aims to give practical help to the individual in his efforts to come close to God in his actual situation. On Shabbos it is forbidden to travel beyond the 2,000 cubits of the Shabbos boundary, because this day is not the time for the work of refining. Or rather, it is a time of great loving kindness, when only the good of the Jewish people radiates. I am black but beautiful. I am black on the 6 working days, but beautiful on the Shabbos. This is the idea of a zamru ayeih. Also, of a zamru ayeih. This is the idea of a zamru. This is the idea of a zamru ayeih. Also, of a zamru. This is the idea of a zamru. Ayeih also radiates on Shabbos, as we have seen. Together these 2 paths make up the 2 alifs, adding up to the 2,000 cubits of the Shabbos boundary. One is permitted to journey only within the limit that is within the framework of these 2 paths. Nanach, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman. Nachman meuman. If someone knows he will have to travel beyond the Shabbos for a mitzvah or some other pressing purpose, the halacha offers him 2 possibilities. These are known as erivei techumin, or mixing the limits, eruvei techumin, mixing the limits. I'm mixing the limits, mixing Mixing the limits, mixing the limits, mixing the limits. The first method is as follows. Before sundown on Friday, one travels to the edge of the Shabbos tchum, as measured from the place where he lives. And sits there until dark. Wherever a person is during the twilight period, this is where he acquires his Shabbos residence for that Shabbos, and is from there that his Shabbos boundary is measured. This individual, having acquired 2,000 cubits in all directions from the place where he sat at sundown, can still go back to his home because it is within 2,000 cubits from there, but can also go 2,000 cubits in the opposite direction. In effect, he has created a boundary of 4,000 cubits from his home. The second method of mixing the limits is related to the Shabbos food. Prior to Shabbos, one leaves enough food for 2 Shabbos meals at the edge of the Shabbos tchum, as measured from his home. Having done this, his Shabbos boundary is now measured from the place of the food, again giving him a boundary of 4,000 cubits from his home. Why can the Shabbos boundary be measured from the place where food is left? The answer relates to the fact that the work of refinement on the 6 weekdays. The answer relates to the fact that the work of refinement on the 6 weekdays, with all the labor and traveling it involves, is primarily concerned with livelihood and food. For all a person's work is for his mouth, the task of refinement becomes necessary because of sin. The task of refinement becomes necessary because of sin. This source of all the sin is Adam's sin, which involved eating. After Adam ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, God decreed, "In toil you shall eat. With the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread." All the efforts involved in the 39 categories of labor and travel result from this decree. All the efforts involved in the 39 categories of labor and travel result from this decree. One must invest these efforts to sift out the sparks of good from amidst the 2 divisions of the forces of evil. This is accomplished through the 2 approaches of azamru and ayeih. On weekdays, one must exert much effort to eat in holiness because of the hold of evil. Therefore, it is not good to eat excessively during the week. Therefore, it is not good to eat excessively during the week. On Shabbos, however, the act of eating is entirely holy. On Shabbos, the 2 approaches of Zamru and Ayeih radiate with a special light, rendering the forces of evil powerless. Since eating on Shabbos is holy, it is a mitzvah to eat plentifully on that day. Obviously, this does not mean overindulging. That's in brackets. Nanach, nachman, eating plentifully on Shabbos lends added radiance to the 2 paths. Eating plentifully on Shabbos lends added radiance to the 2 paths of Zamru and Ayeih. As the rabbi said, chew with your teeth and you'll get strength in your feet. Chew with your teeth and you'll get strength in your feet. The feet allude to these 2 paths. Eating is the main channel for Shabbos joy. The rabbi said that nothing is better for a person than to eat, drink, and be happy on Shabbos and Yom Tov. The joy of Shabbos gives radiance in the 2 paths of Zamru. The joy of Shabbos gives radiance. The joy of Shabbos gives radiance to the 2 paths of Zamru and Ayeih. This is why the Shabbos boundary of 2,000 cubits, alluding to the 2 olives of Zamru and Ayeih, begins from the place where the Shabbos food is left. To explain more deeply, the fundamental rectification of all the worlds is accomplished by connecting and unifying all the revealed utterances within the hidden utterance from which they all derive. This is brought about through eating in holiness. Eating on Shabbos, eating connects body and soul which is the concept of connecting and unifying all the worlds with God. Just as the soul animates and sustains the body, God animates and sustains all the worlds. Eating in holiness, therefore, brings about a great unification, because it epitomizes the unification that comes about when all the worlds are connected. That comes about because it epitomizes the unification that comes about when all the worlds are connected. Because it epitomizes the unification that comes about when all the worlds are connected and unified. With the root of their vitality, God, who sustains them all. All the revealed utterances are then included in the primordial points of the creation, the hidden utterance of bezH. The forces of evil draw their strength from the disunity that comes from not believing in God, that comes from not believing in God as the life force of all things, precisely because the root of all things lies in the hidden utterance of ayeih, a place of great concealment that cannot be grasped intellectually at all. The forces of evil draw their life force from there. This is also the forces of evil draw their life force from there. This is also the place from which all the philosophical notions of atheism stem, since it is truly impossible to understand through reason alone how all these worlds were created by and are governed by the most hidden. This understanding can only be achieved through faith. With faith we pass beyond earthly reason and knowledge. This is why the Jews are called Ivrim, Hebrews, from the word aver, beyond, from the word aver, from the root word aver, beyond. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. 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 Logic ultimately leads to atheism. Human logic ultimately leads to the atheism. It leads to atheism, which derives from the vacated space and the shattering of the vessels. Even the forces of evil that derive from the shattering of the vessels are really rooted in the vacated space, which is the ultimate source of all the forces of evil. For had it not been for the initial contraction that brought about the vacated space, there would not have been the ribui or the ribui or superabundance of light. Superabundance of light. Superabundance of light, which caused the vessels to shatter, yet the vacated space. Superabundance of light, which caused the vessels to shatter, yet the vacated space was necessary in order for creation to come about. So this explains why the fundamental tikkun, yet the vacated space was necessary in order for creation to come about. This explains why the fundamental tikkun is accomplished through ayeih, like constantly searching for God. As soon as you believe that God is present, all they can yield, even in the remote places that derive from the vacated space, then you can rise to the exalted level of ayeih. Itself, the hidden utterance of bezH, then the vitality of these far-off places is bound once again to God, and all the utterances are unified with their source in the hidden utterance, in the hidden utterance. When the life force of evil is bound to the higher worlds, perfect unity is achieved. One accomplishes all this through eating in holiness. Adam's sin of eating from the tree of knowledge brought death into the world. For on the day you eat from it, you will surely die. Death constitutes the separation of body and soul. Today it is impossible to refine the act of eating to such an extent that the body and soul are bound together in eternal life. Adam's sin caused a great deal of waste to become mixed up with food, and for this reason man is necessarily mortal. His mortality results from the blemish in eating. With the sweat of your brow you will eat bread until you return to the ground. The main tikkun after death comes about when the soul rises. The main tikkun after death comes about when the soul rises to the hidden utterance and returns to bring new life to the body so it can stand up. So it can stand up at the resurrection of the dead and live forever. The tzaddik, nanach, nachman, meuman, however nullifies his body and achieves an ascent to ayeih in his lifetime. Such a tzaddik does not really die at all. His death is the ultimate in self-effacement. His death is the ultimate in self-effacement. Whereby he achieves a complete descent to the hidden utterance in order to bring down new life. Whereby he achieves a complete descent to the hidden utterance in order to bring down new life, to remedy all souls, in order to bring down new life, to remedy all the souls. Those who are not tzaddikim must suffer pain in Gehenna after death, in accordance with their deeds, to enable them to rise up. Everything is calculated justly, but even if a person fails to perfect himself during his lifetime, if he always tries to search for God, but even if a person fails to perfect himself during his lifetime, if he always tries to search for God, if he always tries to search for God, if he always tries to search for God, or if he always tries to search for God, he gives himself a tremendous advantage. After death, when his soul passes through Olam Atoyu, when his soul passes through Olam Atoyu, the netherworld, he will be able to search for God. He will be able to search for God even there. He will be able to search for God even there, and will not be deceived. And will not be deceived. He will easily arrive at his resting place, all through the power of the true tzaddik. Nachman, meuman. It requires constant effort throughout one's life to always sanctify one's eating, binding body and soul together in holiness, so that the eating itself brings about the unification of all the worlds with their source. One can attain this lofty goal by eating on Shabbos. On that day it is a great mitzvah to eat and enjoy, because eating on Shabbos is holy. The two paths of Zamru and ayeih shine forth, and all the unifications are completed. All the worlds and all the utterances are unified with their source in the hidden utterance, which then shines forth with a wonderful radiance. The mixing of the limits is bound up with the Shabbos meals, because the 2,000 cubits of the Shabbos boundary, the two alephists of the Zamru and ayeih, their strength from the act of eating on Shabbos, derive their strength from the act of eating on Shabbos. The essence of the unification involves uniting the two alephists with each other. Zamru is the tikkun for the shattering of the vessel, since it enables all the good, the sparks of holiness, to ascend to their place. These are the revealed utterances, the source of all good. The Torah and the mitzvahs as a whole that have the purpose of revealing God's glory into the whole world is filled with His glory. But ayeih, which is the tikkun for the vacated space, is the root of the Torah, and is higher than the Torah, and is higher than the Torah. The main thing is to join a zamro and ayeih together in unity, finding the Torah as a whole. The revealed utterances are as expressed in all the worlds. The revealed utterances as expressed in all the worlds, with the supreme source bezH, the hidden utterance. Then the two alephi's are joined together, and this is the goal of eating in holiness, as explained in the writings of the Ari. Kavanos of eating on Shabbos accomplishes this unification, because Shabbos is the time of rest and calm. On this day, one can think clearly and perceive with the eye of faith how everything is one, and perceive with the eye of faith how everything is one. The whole world and all it contains have no life except from God, who is hidden and concealed from all. This is the perfect unification. Such faith can only be achieved by drawing from the holiness of Shabbos, which is itself the holiness. Such faith can only be achieved by drawing from the holiness of Shabbos. Such faith can only be achieved by drawing from the holiness of Shabbos. Such faith can only be achieved by drawing from the holiness of Shabbos, which is itself the holiness of the true tzaddikim, who have achieved a clear, tranquil perception. A clear, tranquil perception. This is the true delight of the Shabbos rest. A rest in peace and tranquility, quietude and trust. This is the true delight of the Shabbos rest. A rest in peace and tranquility, quietude and trust. In sitting still and rest shall you be saved. In quietness and confidence, in sitting still and rest shall you be saved. In quietness and confidence will be your strength. This inner calm and tranquility. This inner calm and tranquility cannot be communicated to anyone else. Each one can only experience it for himself. This inner calm and tranquility cannot be communicated to anyone else. Each one can only experience it for himself. It is something soft, like the antenna of the locust, soft as a reed, as it is written, let be. And know that I am God, let be. And know that I am God, let be. And know that I am God, let be. And know that I'm God, let be. And know that I am God. We can only follow our fathers and holy tzaddikim, nach, nachman, meuman, in their merits. God will take pity on us and grant us a spark of His radiance, and their merit God will take pity on us and grant us a spark. Will take pity on us and grant us a spark of His radiance. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Ayeih and Jacob, and then camped before the city. This teaches that he established the Shabbos boundary at sunset, the 3 Shabbos meals. The 3 Shabbos meals. The 3 Shabbos meals correspond to the 3 patriarchs. The Friday night meal corresponds to Avruham, the man of loving kindness, who judges everyone favorably and brings blessings of love upon the Jewish people, who judges everyone favorably and brings blessings of love upon the Jewish people through the good points he finds in them, and this alludes to the path of a Zamro. The Shabbos morning meal corresponds to Isaac, the perfect offering, who asked ayeih, where's the lamb for the offering? This alludes to the path of ayeih, which was established. This alludes to the path of ayeih, which was established with the binding of Isaac. Isaac sweetens the severe judgments at their roots. Oh, these judgments derive from the concealment. These judgments derive from the concealments of the hidden utterance through ayeih. They are sweetened. Thus the first 2 Shabbos meals correspond to the first 2 patriarchs and the 2 paths of Zamru and ayeih, which are perfected by Shabbos eating. The 3rd patriarch Jacob is the middle bar. Passing through from end to end is the middle bar. Passing through from end to end. Through Jacob, the 2 paths are joined together to form the perfect unity that comes about on Shabbos, to form the perfect unity. For the perfect unity, for the perfect unity that comes about on Shabbos. This corresponds to Sunnah Shlishis, the 3rd Shabbos meal, which is the time of the will of wills, which is the time of the will of wills. Then the Holy Ancient of Days reveals His will. Then the Holy Ancient of Days, and the Holy Ancient of Days reveals His will. Then the Holy Ancient of Days reveals His will, the rectification brought about by the 2 paths of Zamru and ayeih is now perfect. This is why Shabbos is called the inheritance of Jacob. It is an inheritance without bounds, because all the forces limiting and oppressing holiness disappear, and everything is brought back to God, because all the forces limiting and oppressing holiness disappear, and everything is brought back to God through the 2 paths of Zamru and ayeih, unified as they are by Jacob, who opens them up to all. This underscores the significance of the teaching. This underscores the significance of the teaching of the rabbis that Jacob established the Shabbos boundary of 2,000 cubits, alluding to the two holiest of Zamru and ayeih, alluding to the 2 holiest of Zamru and ayeih. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Nach, 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 nachman, meuman. 2 are better than 1, for if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, and a threefold cord, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. 2 are better than 1. These are the 2 paths of Zamru and ayeih. These are the 2 paths of Zamru and ayeih, which support a person at all times and keep him from falling in any way. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. Sometimes the way to hold ourselves is through the pathway of Zamru, looking for the good points we still have in us. However, at times we cannot do even this, and there seems to be no way to get out of our low. Then we have to hold ourselves with ayeih, searching for God in the very situation in which we find ourselves. Ayeih is a path that is always open. No way in the world can the evil one throw us off it. No way in the world! Ayeih is a path that is always open. Ayeih is a path that is always open. Ayeih is a path that is always open. No way in the world can evil one throw us off it. No way in the world can evil one throw us off it. No way in the world can evil one throw us off it. No way in the world No way in the world can evil one throw us off it. He may try to get it into our minds. He may try to get it into our minds that all hope is lost because of our sins. But no matter what state we find ourselves in, the rabbis teach that we can always search for God, even in the filthy places, and so attain the ultimate heights of ayeih. This way we can always hold ourselves firm and strong until eventually God takes pity on us and opens our eyes to our good points, until eventually God takes pity on us and opens our eyes to our good points. Then we will rejoice at God's saving power, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. This is Jacob who joins the two paths together, bringing about the perfect tikkun. Nanach, nachman, meuman.
ما تشتححي نفسي وتهمي على يحل الإلهي كي عد أدني يشعط بنا إلهي علي